So I asked Ori to speak. Yeah.
Next on the agenda.
I'm sorry. Next on the agenda, I asked Ori Weinroth, head of marketing for Google Cloud, to speak, because sometimes you do have a big budget. So I wanted to know, what can you do if you do have a big budget, and what could we learn? Maybe there's something there that we can copy in a different way. So please welcome.
Apologies, just had to let someone know I was late. All right. How do we have this? Okay. Is this, does this go to the? Yeah. Thank you. No Google account, so not able to share docs. Is this showing? That's the other screen. Classic. Okay. No? I have no idea how to get this done. That's fine. Okay, so I'm just going to kick it off in the interest of time. Hi, I'm Lori. I work for Google. I head, oh, sorry about that. Well, whereabouts is it? Better? No. How about now?
Yes.
All right. So I work at Google, and I'm a regional manager for a product called, or a set of products called Google Cloud. I manage about a fifth of Europe, and I'm based here in Tel Aviv. And I've been on a bumpy path to get to this particular point in my life. I started out as a lawyer. I was a practicing corporate attorney for 6 years, doing predominantly startup stuff. So Section 102 plans and VC investments and M&A. And then I did an MBA and transitioned over to being a business development manager, worked for Microsoft and worked for a startup. It's V. Schreiber's Ghost, if you've ever heard of it. It was the first Israeli-Palestinian startup, and lots of nice stories there. And then transitioned over to marketing because I wanted to travel less. And how stupid was I? This is like trip 72 during my time at Google, trip abroad. So for the past 10 years, I've done marketing. I've only done marketing at Microsoft and Google, and that makes me quite a bad fit for this audience because I've never had to work with no budget, and I've very rarely had to work with little budget. But so I was asking Dahlia, why did you invite me? And I tried to think about it myself as well, like what value could I bring to this audience? So I thought that one value that I could bring is, as was noted by a previous speaker, you make a lot of mistakes when you're in marketing, and if you have no budget, it's harder to make mistakes. So having budgets, I've made quite a lot of mistakes, and I've also learned a little bit about things that work. So hopefully I can share that with you so that your mistakes are not as expensive. At this point, let me talk about some assumptions. Do you think that's, oh, fantastic. So a few assumptions for this talk. The first is that you care about B2B because if you only care about B2C, you should probably be up here instead of me. I have no idea. The second is that you want to get sales, and I don't mean the first two customers that are going to prove your product market fit or get you investors or things like that. I mean you actually want to ramp sales, because that's what I do. I work in field marketing, which is, if you guys don't know nomenclature of large companies, that means that my primary responsibility is making sure that the sales pipeline is full and that opportunities in the pipeline are accelerated and closed, right? And so revenue comes in. So I'm going to assume that you've gotten your first few customers and you want to now ramp that up. And then the third thing is if you're there, you're probably past the basics, which means you've done everything that was spoken about in the past session. You've got your website up, and you're able to take leads when they come in, and you're able to nurture them with a little bit of an email flow, right? And you've got content marketing up probably, and probably also a PR firm at this point. Okay, so learning number one, and if you don't, just take notes, and then at one day, I'm sure everyone in this room will get there. Okay. So I just want to give a shout out to what was said before about leveraging early enthusiasts. I've been at Google for 6 years. When we started out, I was the first field marketing person for a product known as Google Cloud Platform. I only had one person who worked with me to cover all of Europe, and not very many salespeople, not very many technical people, and we leveraged the hell out of our early enthusiasts. Google has a program called Google Developer Evangelist, and those folks know the product spot on, they're very technical, and we made them the heroes. We put them in front of audiences like this. We used them in one-on-one engagements to get people going. They wrote blog posts, they presented at very, very large events. So leverage the hell out of this. Even if people do not have their own channels, if they're not really influencers, they all have friends, and you can get them to refer some of their friends, right? So little by little, it's a force multiplier. And I just want to give a shout out to 2 platforms that help you do that. One is Israeli, Crowdvocate, I think the guy's here, maybe? Yeah, right. And Influitive, which is, I'm told, their well-funded cousin, which is a US-based company. And these guys basically let you gamify, and so for example, you can set out tasks for your enthusiasts, and when they complete those tasks, they can get rewards. You know, it's just cheap stuff, just swag with your logo on it, or dinner with your CEO will work. Okay. Product credits. Anybody here who's got a SaaS product, obviously you can use credits in order to get publicity, and we've done that. Sometimes we get, for example, to get into hackathons or into events, if we let the organizers have some credits for Google Cloud. Sometimes a blogger will write about you if you give them credits to give out, etc. This is kind of common. And then maybe less common, your vendors. I don't know if this is obvious, but if you're spending a lot of money with someone, and it doesn't have to be a marketer. So if you're a SaaS startup, maybe you're built on a cloud, and maybe you're on Amazon or on Azure or on Google Cloud. Those people have an interest in keeping you happy, keeping you a customer, and also showcasing their success with you, right? And so when I was at Microsoft, I was one of the founders of a program known as BizSpark, which I don't know if anybody is using BizSpark, but what we did was we took a trade show floor and we gave it out to our startups, because we wanted to show that startups in the BizSpark program were successful. This is one such way. Doing a case study with you is another way. Just bring a cool idea and show how you're making the brand look good as well, and a lot of times they will agree. Okay. Learning number 2. Oh, this is terrible animation. Okay, so if you have an assisted sale, that is, it is not a touchless self-serve sale. That means that as you ramp up sales, as a marketing person, you're going to start hitting 2 bottlenecks. One is a sales bottleneck. Sales will not love you for whatever leads you send them. It's not like everything you send is just fine and they're oh so happy. They're gonna run out of bandwidth, and it's not just the picking up the phone and calling the person, it's also showing them the demo and then debugging stuff and then getting the contracts done, right? So even relatively simple sales could be quite complex, and you quickly hit a blocker. Same thing if you're taking in leads that might require you to change the product, you're gonna hit a product bottleneck. So what that means is you gotta do some stuff to make sure that you are leveraging your marketing dollars in a way that will actually lead to revenue and not hit one of those bottlenecks. So what do? Number 1 is you go and agree on a prospect profile. You sit down with your product people and with your sales people and think about, demographically, what are they looking for? Behaviorally, what would indicate that someone is really ready to buy and is not going to spend a lot of the sales team's time? And psychographically, sometimes, although we don't really use that much in B2B. And from a demographic perspective, it's really important not just to think about the person, but about the account as well, right? Because all of these signals, they can be attributed to a person or to an account. So even here, actually, what are they searching for? Maybe if just one person is searching for a relevant term, it doesn't mean much. But if 4 people from the same company are searching for that same term, that shows a lot of interest and readiness to buy, and you want to go get that one, right? Okay, so agree on what your prospect profile looks like. Also, and then next step is start thinking about spears and nets. This is not my analogy. It's been in market for a while. What this means is you're going to have 2 types of marketing, and you're going to need that prospect profile for both of them. So the first type is fishing with a net. And think about it, when you fish with a net, you can throw it in a certain part of the ocean trying to target a certain type of fish, but a lot of other crap is going to swim in, right? There's going to be fish you can't eat, and then little fish, and then you're going to want to throw them back out. So marketing is the same. You're going to do content marketing, and even though you're going to try to talk to an audience of one, that's not always going to work, and there are going to be leads that come in, and you need to be able to identify them and throw them out rather than give them to your sales team, or nurture them until they get bigger and then give them to the sales team, right? So this is number one. Number two is fishing with spears. Some people in the industry refer to this as account-based marketing, but that's such a maligned term. But the idea is you know exactly who you want to go after. For example, it could be Fortune 500 companies, and you go after them, spending an inordinate amount of resources and money in order to do that. So for both of these, you need to know who your prospect is, right? But then you actually need to know not just my prospect is global top 500 companies that uses Salesforce and has an IT budget of $3 million. Okay, which companies are those, right? So you got to go get the prospect data. The prospect data can come from three places. One is you've already got it. So make sure you make use of it, right? If someone is hitting your webpage, your Google Analytics will tell you, sorry for the shameless plug here, whether they are at top of the funnel, that is they just browsed the first page, or whether they went through your pricing in detail, which means they're further down the funnel, they're more mature, ready to buy. Also shameless plug for BigQuery, which is a Google Cloud product which attaches here, and that means that you can get any volume of data from anywhere, right? And it'll crunch through it really quickly and cost efficiently. Second is data you borrow, and what I mean by that is there are vendors out there that will let you target according to very specific profiles, right? Sometimes, but they won't give you the data. You don't own it. They'll just place an ad on your behalf, which means you don't get the data until someone responds and fills out a form or downloads a white paper, right? That's quite good. This is best practice. Some have a lot of precision, but not necessarily a lot of reach. And there are some that are coming out there that are starting to have much more reach so that you can get to more people. But again, this isn't the end all, because what happens if you now want to go outside of these channels? So you don't want to advertise on LinkedIn. You want your salespeople to call people. You want to put telemarketing. You want to send someone a piece of mail. Or again, people swim in from my content marketing and I want to identify them. I'm not going to be able to identify them based on data that's kept by these vendors. So then sometimes you go out and you develop your own data, and there's two ways to do that. Number one is you can get it off the shelf, and there's so many companies out there. Seriously, these are just some logos. So Lucia is an Israeli company actually that's got hundreds of millions of B2B folks, and you can just subscribe and you get the whole database. And you can download the data and you can put it in on your servers. Bombora, this is for contact data. Bombora is for intent data. They're like the industry standard for intent data. What are people looking at? What are they thinking? What are they? And then there's some platforms like Discover.org, and again, there are more that buy content from all of these and present that to you as one package, which makes it easier, but also more expensive. Like Discover.org is about $11,000 a year, right? Or you can go and do custom data. Why would you do custom data? Well, if my salespeople want to call out to the top Fortune 500, I don't need all of this. I just need the CIO or the whatever of this top company. So Leads Genius, again, there's so many agencies in India and in the Philippines that'll do this on the cheap, and it's inexpensive. It's $0.8 usually per contact. We use Leads Genius. But. Okay, so now that you got the data, you know who you're going after. You have thought about outbound marketing, inbound marketing, spears and nets, and you can identify your prospects. I just want to give a shout out to two activities. Now, I bet you thought that because I was from Google, I'm only going to talk about online marketing and ads. I'm not actually going to talk at all about online marketing and ads. Two things we have found to work. So the first is telemarketing, and you can do telemarketing 50 different ways, right? You can have your own team sitting in-house doing telesales or inside sales or whatever. You can hire an agency that will give you a proportion of its people's time to do outbound calling, which is great because you don't have to hire the people and get a lot of languages, right, by using an external agency. What we have found is that there are agencies out there that will not be paid by the amount of calls or work that they do, but what they actually deliver to you, 100%. I don't just mean like an extra bonus or incentive if they hit certain targets. You don't pay unless you like the opportunity, the BANT qualified opportunity that they have given to you. So we work with one of these agencies out of the UK. It's called Pursuit. They specialize in marketing IT, so maybe that's less relevant to you guys. But the way that they will work is they'll make calls. They'll make calls as themselves, not as Google. They'll qualify the leads according to our qualification criteria. They'll create a very descriptive document about all the conversations and the details that they got. They'll hand it over to our salespeople. Our salespeople will look at it. If they like it, they'll call the lead, and only if after that call they think that the agency properly qualified it, there's really a big opportunity there, we will pay the agency $650. $650 is nothing for a qualified opportunity if the product that you're selling is $10,000 and up, right? Depending on your win rates. It can be very lucrative. It's almost like printing pipeline, and you don't own the assets. There's no upfront investment except for training the agency's people on how you qualify. So I would highly recommend this be in your arsenal. The second and also last thing I'm going to present, I have no idea how I am on time. Yeah, okay, is direct mail. I was very surprised when I joined Google and saw that Google was using direct mail. And I know that a number of my team members also expressed a similar surprise. But we use quite a lot of direct mail, and here's why. So the response rate to prospect lists, meaning you are mailing people who do not know you and don't have a relationship with you, is about 3%. Which is 3x that of any other type of outreach, whether it's email or online marketing, etc. Okay, so the response rate is higher. But our response rates to DM are 15 to 20%. Okay, which means we'll see someone on DM and they'll respond 15 to 20% of the time. So why the big discrepancy? I mean, even the initial numbers are quite impressive, but ours are really through the roof. So I think one of them, which you can't replicate, is the Google brand, right? You get a package in the mail from Google, you're probably gonna open that up. You probably don't think it's a bomb, right? At least I hope not. But also I think the difference is what direct mail, because this stuff, my guess is it's thrown together a lot of stuff, most of which is postcards or letters. We don't do postcards or letters. So I'm gonna show you a little bit about what we do. So this is a case study from here. We run summits. They're massive events. No need to take a photo. Like, seriously, there's nothing here. Next slides. We run these massive events. Last year, the Tel Aviv event was 3,600 people, for which you need to register over 7,000 people, right? So how do you get them to register? Oh, we use everything, right? We've built up a database over the years, and we use advertising. But there were very high quality people we wanted to get. The biggest digital natives in Israel. Think about a Wix, right? You want their CIO to come, and you want their team lead to come. You want all their developers to come, the influencers and the decision makers. They're busy people. Every tech company in Israel is trying to sell to them. So how do you get them to pay attention and come? So Elite, who's sitting back there, and Shani, who's sitting here, came out with this DM concept. And we had two of them. One went to the C-levels, one went to the dev team leads. So this is the exec stuff. So it's a box of chocolates, and it was delivered to the execs exactly 30 days prior to the event. It's got 30 chocolates in it, and you eat one every day, and it counts down to the summit. And this took quite a lot of thought. It's also, on the expensive side, and I'll talk about ROI in a bit. But it took a lot of thought, right? It's May. It needs to travel in refrigeration, for example. And you have to make sure you've got everything exactly lined up to land on the one day, right? So this was what we did for the execs. For the devs, we had a different concept because we didn't just want the dev team leads. We wanted all the developers to come. But if you send something like this to each and every single dev, that's going to be very cost prohibitive. So we wanted something that would encourage sharing or that would pop in some way, shape, or form. And so this is what we did. So they would open the box. I'm saying we, it's the royal we, it's Shani and Elite. And the balloon would pop up, and imagine you're in an open space. So suddenly in the middle of an open space is an advertisement for the summit, and there's invites inside to hand out to people as well. And this thing is also attached so that it is very clearly seen. So what are the results? So first of all, other than registrations, like, people really like this. You remember what was said before about, you want people to like you? People felt flattered, people shared this online, so we got extra coverage for the summit. We have no idea what this drove, right? Because it wasn't UTM tagged in any way. But I think people like this better than getting an email. And here's how it shows as well. So paid media drove 1,712 registrations for the summit at a cost of $128 per registrant. Attendance, though, was 34%, right, out of paid media. Paid media is not great engagement. You're clicking on an ad. It's not very personal, is it? So there's not a lot of commitment that it creates. $374 per attendee. This is literally anyone. This is what Facebook lets you target, which means you cannot target by account, and you very rarely can target by job title. So anyone in tech, including students, people out of a job, right? That's what this $374 represents. This was the DM to the executives. First of all, 30% response rate once we sent the DM plus a marketing email to follow up. So the cost here is much higher per registrant, but then look at the engagement. 60% of the people showed up. And so now we have a cost that's 50% higher, but it's like the exact execs that we wanted. And they're happy too, because they got some chocolate. And then these are the ITDMs and developers, right? And you see that the costs start out quite the same as the paid media, but then actually fall lower because of the higher show-up rates, fall lower than doing paid media. So this is just one example. We do quite a lot of direct mail, including we do stuff that has nothing to do with events. And when we do direct mail that just asks you to call us, what we typically do is we break it down into 2 DMs. The first DM will be less expensive, and we'll basically say to you, reach out to us, have a chat with us. If you just fill out our form, we'll send you the second DM, which is usually a nice gift. You don't have to buy, right? You don't even actually have to talk to us. If you never make that meeting, we will still send you the DM. But that way we lower costs, because people who are not interested, they don't get the more expensive first DM. So it's a two-step process that reduces cost. That is it for my sharings for today. And I guess I'll be here in the back together with everyone. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah? Okay, so do we have time for 3 questions for Ruth? Does anyone have any questions for Ori? All right, Ori will be here afterwards.